what you don't understand. The truth is not in your command. Don't shout about what you think is fake. The decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are. The tall tales will take you very far. Don't scoff when they say it's the end.
Hello, everybody. Chris is just joining us. Hey, Chris. So Sal is on, Chris is on. So this is your guest. If you're DSNY, this is your DSNY video. If you're New York City retirees, you're welcome to listen along. But this video today is for DSNY employees and retirees for all of their questions and everything that they have going on. Let me just take a quick peek over at your Facebook page, because I did post the link in there, and I just want to make sure that that they're coming along. Okay. Did you guys have, well, let's see if we have, where did you guys go? Oh, here we go. Let's see if we have anyone in the chat. Let's see who's here. If sanitation workers or retirees are here, can you just give us a heads up in the chat that you're with us? I see 14 people watching, but I don't know if you're sanitation. People. You have a lot of people in your Facebook page too. Sal's back. You want me to get rid of the other you?
We have two Sals.
I got two Sals now. Sal, do you want me to get rid of one of you? Oh, he got rid of one of them. But are you there? Sal, are you with us? My husband is here. Hey, Victoria. Good. So you do have a few members that are here. Everyone is at the store getting milk and bread.
We got two files again.
Sal, are you with us? Hello, Sal.
Let me try to text him.
If you get 3 Sals, it's a party. Ha ha. Sal, can you hear us?
You guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Now we can.
Okay, I put the other you in the waiting room. Someone says Sal is technologically challenged. Oh, and we lost Sal. Sal. All right, I think we're going to start because always will be here all night. Sal probably can't. Sal has to stay on one device and he can't go off of camera. If he goes off camera, he's going to keep popping off. Sal, are you there? That's Sal too. But All right. I'm going to add the document that I was going over earlier. And let's see. So let's start with the Medicare retirees from sanitation, because that was primarily a lot of the questions that we were getting. So let's see, give me a second to upload that document for you. And so your new plan is what they call a Medicare Part D plan. When you're eligible for Medicare, you have to be on a creditable Part D plan. And your union was not unique in that its benefits were not creditable. And what that means is that your plan didn't have the benefits that it should have provided to you under the state guidelines. It just does not like that file. Let's try one more time from my computer. And this year, though, they didn't, and it wasn't this. They're not unique in that, like I was saying, because Local 237 Teamsters as well as CWA 1180 also had that problem in that they were not providing you with a maximum out of pocket, which under the Inflation Reduction Act, it limits what you pay. People are confusing that $2,100 maximum out of pocket, or MOOP for short. And that is the most that will ever come out of your pocket in the calendar year. You do on this plan have a $615 deductible. Again, this is from your Medicare retirees. And yet that too will be applied to that $2,100. So that's important to, is that your phone beeping?
It's my computer. I'm sorry. It's catching up on some messages. Let me see if I can turn it off. I apologize.
Okay, because that's really loud.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to, let me see if I could do a share screen, because maybe that'll be easier than trying to upload that file since it's pretty big. So what'll happen with the Medicare Part D drug plan is that the new pharmacy benefit manager is now Emblems and Prime Therapeutics. Kind of think about Prime Therapeutics like the drug dealer. They're the ones that make all the price, get the drugs that they're going to sell to you from the pharmacies. To the pharmacies from the drug manufacturers. Sal, if you can hear me, so just click the link that I sent you to be a presenter with me, and then you can't come off screen. Like if you were going to check other comments or check other devices, you can't do that on your phone. You've got to only stay on the video. If you were going off to something else, then you're going to keep dropping off. But see if you can come back on and just stay on video and don't click anything else on your cell phone, unless you have an iPad or something else that you could use. Okay, so now let me see if I can bring your document back up. Share screen, window. This just doesn't seem like it wants to work. Okay. So what I'm going to just do is read it to you. For whatever reason, it doesn't want to work this time. Chris, you may just want to mute yourself so that
I'm going to mute it for now, yeah.
So when you want to talk, just unmute it so we don't hear the dings. Okay. So I'm going to start going over the documents that you guys have reached. Yes, this is for Local 831. To my understanding, and maybe you guys in here, because the last group couldn't tell me what happened, I do not know what plan 444 has. So if This meeting is for local 831 retirees. If 444, I am told before, does not offer a drug plan, that means that those people are on the city drug plan. We'll get to that next. This is specifically right now, this segment is just for the retirees who are on a Medicare Part D plan that local 831 has given to your members, okay? I found Sal. He's okay. Oh, good. So the plan works like this. Prime Therapeutics is now your pharmacy benefit manager. The plan is run by Emblem Health. So you have a new card, you have a new number, you have to make sure that you take that information and bring it to your new pharmacy, to your pharmacy and to your doctor. There are network pharmacies. Just about most of the, looks like Sal's trying to come back. And so you could take that card back to the doctor and to your pharmacy and update your information in their systems. So your drug plan now, it has a $615 deductible. And so Sal, welcome back.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So we're just starting to talk about the Medicare Part D drug plan.
Okay, yes.
So, and stop me if you have a question or if you want me to clarify something that you find confusing. And I'm watching the chat on the side to see if there's any questions in there. So again, this is for 831's Medicare Part D eligible plans, retirees who are getting the drug plan from the union. This is the new plan that started this year. It is a Medicare Part D plan. It is run by Emblem and the pharmacy benefit managers that make the deals with the manufacturers of the medications and tells the insurance company what drugs they're going to offer and then makes the deals on how much to sell them to the retail pharmacies as well as the mail order companies. As a Medicare person, you have two mail order options with this plan. You have Express Scripts, which you had before, and you also have Amazon Prime, Amazon Delivery. Amazon, you can get your drugs delivered by Amazon. You do not need an Amazon Prime account, but I want to warn you that your medications will be delivered by Amazon. So they will be delivered however Amazon delivers your package. If you are in an apartment building with 100 apartments, wherever they leave your Amazon packages, if it's in your lobby, if they don't deliver them to your door or they're delivered to a doorman, however they go, that's where your drugs are going. It's not like Express Scripts, that when Express Scripts sends you your drugs are put in your mailbox. And if you're in a building, there's usually a lockbox. So you need to keep that in mind because there's a risk. If Amazon packages, and we've all seen those TikToks where people are stealing packages as being porch pirates or lobby pirates, that can happen to you. So I'm just putting that out there because when we told OLR and Emblem this last week, they were clueless to this. So I'm letting you know that those are your two options and that's how they work. Express Scripts goes in your mailbox. Pharmacy, Amazon Delivery gets delivered however Amazon delivers your packages, however you get those. Also, log into the Emblem portal because you can create an account if you don't already have one, and I urge you to do so because in the tab that you have for your pharmacy benefits, you're able to look at the pricing, whether you get your drugs from Walgreens or you get your drugs from CVS or you want to price out what your drugs would cost you, whether you get them from Prime or ESI. So that's a benefit to you by creating an account. I know a lot of people think it's a pain in the ass. So that's your drug plan. Now, the cap that they offer you as an out-of-pocket maximum, or MOOP for short, maximum out-of-pocket, is $2,100. That freaked many of you out. That is not what you're paying. You have to pay as a deductible. It's what the most that will in 12 months ever come out of your pocket. So what they're saying to you is you have a $615 deductible. That comes out first. So whether that's little $520 copays that you pay, or if you have a larger expensive medication, that there will then, your deductible, you'll hit that $615 faster. That $615 deductible is applied to that $2,100 maximum out of pocket. Why is that $2,100 a benefit to you? Because once you've hit that, so if you're on cancer medications or diabetes medications or some kind of an injectable that's expensive, like my monthly World Trade Center treatment cost my plan $45,000 a month. I would have hit that right away. And then everything after that, there's no cost. So understand, once you hit that, you pay that $615, that $615 gets applied to the $2,100 maximum out of pocket. And then as you keep filling up new prescriptions, that $2,100, you'll hit that $2,100. Once you do, there's no cost to you. So if you are one of those people who's on expensive medications, you actually, this is a benefit. That's the most that will ever come out of your pocket in the calendar year. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's actually better than the old plan.
Yes, and this I've been trying to tell people, yes, especially too, is your last plan capped the maximum benefits that you could get. The most drugs you would get up at $44,000 a year. That cap is now gone, which is a beautiful thing. Because God forbid you need something expensive, at least you don't have to worry about that. And this plan also covers Part D vaccinations, which your other plan didn't cover before. So that's huge, because I'll tell you, the retirees who are stuck on a union plan right now that is not a true Part D plan. If they go to get their shingles shot, they're finding out that that vaccination is costing them $250. So this really is a better plan, because now some medications or some injections, some vaccinations you can get in the doctor's office for the Medicare people, that would be covered under your Part B, as in boy, as your medical plan. And some of them have to be done in the pharmacy, and that's covered under the Part D, as in drug plan. Okay. So
Marianne, I had a quick question.
As
far as so for people who don't have a regular dosage of medication or regular prescription of medication, how does that work for them? Because it seems like it would be great for people who have, regular meds being delivered, but what about people who just need them infrequently?
Yeah, so they can get their drugs. They don't have to do mail order. That's just an option. They can get their drugs from their local pharmacy. And on the website, you can go on to, it'll show you what pharmacies are in the network. And also you can price out what the cost of those medications from each of the different locations. Because sometimes you might see a $1 difference if you went to CVS versus if you went to Walgreens or wherever. Okay. And you'll see acute medications, things that you might need rarely, like if you get the flu or something or an infection and you need to go pick up an antibiotic. Yeah, absolutely. You can go get those from the local pharmacy, whichever pharmacy that you use. Now, your plan for the Medicare plan has I think it's a $5 copay for generics, and then you have a tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 level drugs where you're paying 25% of the cost of that medication. So clearly you do want to stay in the generic as possible, and hopefully that they do have a formulary where that covers that drug in a generic. Now, if you're finding that a drug that you take is not in the formulary, you can ask for an exception, and you have a form to fill out with your doctor that asks for them to make an exception. Now, I don't know how many levels of appeals that they may have at the time that happens. You might want to connect with Emblem to say, could you please send me the exception appeal? I want to try to get my drug that my doctor's telling me I need to have that your formulary doesn't cover in. Now, if you choose to purchase a drug or to take a drug that is not in the formulary and you are paying that out of pocket, that does not go towards your $2,100 maximum out of pocket. That's above and beyond because it's not in the formulary. Okay. Where that's another benefit to try to stay in it if you can. And it's understandable that there's a lot of people that are very close to the medications that they're taking. But if there is a possibility that the formulary is very similar or sometimes the same, it's just not produced by a named company, that maybe you can try that medication to see if it does work. And sometimes people will find that maybe they may have a reaction or something to a medication because of an ingredient is different. But if the primary medications are the same, the ingredients of the medication is the same, the other alternative, the other generic might actually work for you. So don't give up on trying that just because you're attached to whatever you've been taking. Something else may work for you. I've had that same thing where I was really this worked for me. I wanted to take it, and the doctor said you might just want to try this because this, instead of you paying $60 a month, this is like $5. And I tried it and it actually worked. So, just be open to that. Now, sometimes you're going to take a medication that's expensive. And if that's the case, this plan that you have for the Medicare retirees does offer you the ability to spread your costs out. So let's say you go and get a medication and the pharmacist says your copay will be $600. Let's say this is a tight month for you and you can't pay that $600. There's an option in your plan to spread that $600 copay out over time so that it doesn't pinch as it might if you had to pay it in one lump shot. Your plan happens to have that benefit, and that's pretty fantastic. So hopefully that will also help you guys as well. This is generally the information for the Medicare part, Medicare eligible retirees. Is there any more questions on this side? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Good. Okay. NYC EPPO. Let's move over to active workers, pre-Medicare retirees. And this would be the plan Sal and Chris are on.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What questions do you guys have?
Chris had brought up something a little while ago about the psychological coverage under the
Mental health?
EPPO.
Mm-hmm.
The mental health, yes.
Okay.
Can you explain that? Like if anything was lost or anything if improved, or Chris could actually probably talk more about it.
So we're looking at that as like an improvement. You actually have yeah. So we were very interested in that as well, because I come from EMS, as you may know, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what we see and go through on in our life can be very stressful. You want to be able to have mental health when you need it. This plan actually has a better mental health benefit than the last plan does. There's actually a link. So in the Emblem portal, you have a link to find doctors, and there should be a separate link to find mental health providers. So you should see a larger network of providers for that, and you have decent coverage for that. Have you tried to look and see which providers were in your area, or if the current people that you're seeing are in this plan's network?
I haven't personally done that yet, but I have a therapist, and my main concern was that I didn't know if my therapist would accept this new insurance. Thankfully, my personal therapist did accept the new insurance, but I've encountered a couple of other active SAN workers who have had the opposite experience.
Okay.
And that can be a little, and that can be a little bit troubling, because it can be years that you build up a relationship with somebody, and to kind of have to start over brand new is a very scary thing.
I agree. So there's also, if you're finding that as a problem, I'm going to share this screen with you guys. Let's see. This is the NYC EPPO screen.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Here, you have one link here for medical and one link here for behavioral health providers. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me see if they moved it back down. Okay. United Health Behavioral Network replaces the Carillon Behavioral Health, which was formerly known as Beacon, which Beacon sucked. Right. The NYC EPPO, you have access to 39,000 providers in New York State, an increase from 12,000, which is pretty huge, the current network. Mental behavioral health providers also increased nationally from 31,000 to 418,000. So that tells you that if you're, traveling, or you need to see someone else, or you're looking for other providers, or you're looking for someone that maybe you could see virtually, because you have in-person and virtual care options with this plan, including access to 22 specialty mental and behavioral health provider organizations, up from 7 that you had in the plan you had before. So Charlie Health for teens and adults who need mental health, substance use disorder, eating disorders, or specific cares. Hazelden Betty Ford for virtual digital therapy for substance use disorders, InStrider Health for virtual digital therapy for pediatric anxiety or obsessive compulsive disorders, and Talkspace for virtual digital therapy via texting, video, or chat with licensed therapists. It says, how does coverage for applied behavioral health therapy work? Does NYC EPPO follow New York State mandates? It says, yes. All NYC EPPO benefits either meet or exceed the New York State mandate as of December 2025, and the ABA therapy usually requires prior authorization through the United Healthcare Network. There's no limit on the number of visits, and you can learn more about that mandate here by clicking this link right on their page. I want to jump back up here because if you go to click the doctors, and let me load that page and then share that one with you. And I'm not seeing that link, but here you're able to, I'm in Georgia, so this is coming up. If you're looking at, why is that popping up, Georgia? I am in Georgia, so that'll give you this page. It'll automatically or you can change your location and then pick, what kind of a frequent search or people are looking for. Just type what kind of a provider or service you're looking for. Now, if you're finding that you're searching for doctors and you're not finding your doctor and you want to see if your doctor would be in the network, you can, and I'm not seeing it on this page, but I will make sure I post it in your Facebook page when I do find it. You are able to recommend that your doctor join the network. And so you understand the downstate 13 that they talk here are downstate 13 counties. If you live in one of those downstate 13 counties, you are using the Emblem network. If you're outside, and this is for the retirees that no longer live in those downstate 13 counties of New York, you're actually using the United Health Choice Network. Let's see, are they still? Yeah, I'm not seeing the link. There is a link here somewhere. I'm just not seeing it because they had updated their website. But I will make sure that you guys have the link to recommend your provider join the network. And if you're having a problem and you're not finding the doctor, you can always email us at our organization, and I'll put that in the chat so it goes into the link below. Retirees at nycretirees.org, and just say that, hey, I'm in the NYC EPPO plan. I'm not finding my doctor, whether that's a doctor, medical doctor, or mental health doctor, a provider. I'm not finding them in the network and they don't take your plan. I've called their office and asked. They're not accepting this network. Can we please help try to get them in the network? So if they say to you, hey, yeah, Chris, I'm interested in joining, I'll join that plan for you. It's United Healthcare plan, no problem. I'll try to get into it. If you're having trouble with that, reach out to us because we can connect you with them and they will help you make that connection and work with your doctor. So you have a question here. Are we going to receive new cards for United Healthcare? So you should have already received a card in the mail, and it should be a little white card, and it should have at the top of it, City of New York Health Program, and it should have both the emblem and the United logo on it. It's a crappy ass design. I'm going to be totally honest with you, because if you look at the top, it says City of New York logo, New York City Health Program. It has the United logo and the emblem logo. And if you're a non-Medicare, a pre-Medicare retiree living like, I don't know where, Florida or somewhere, and they're going to go, ugh, emblem. I don't like emblem. I'm not taking that shit. And then you're going to go, well, wait a minute. It's United in emblem. And they just see emblem and they're like, go away. But if they're not looking at the tiny print on the right lower corner of your card, it literally says that if you're not in the emblem service area, you are on the United Healthcare Choice Plus network, which should explain to them, if they were patient and could read tiny print and put on their glasses, that you're in that network of benefits, not just emblem. Because if you're not in the downstate 13 counties, you're not on emblem. You're on United Healthcare Choice Plus network. They probably didn't make that as clear as they could have, and that's probably the number one complaint I get from pre-Medicare retirees in Florida, is that all of a sudden they see this and they go, "Ah!" I did receive that one and was told they didn't take it here in Florida. So what I would like you to do, please, is go to the website that I gave you, the NYCEPPO. Hold on, I'm going to drop that link in the chat for you. And I want you to, NYCEPPO, I want you to go on this website and I want you to find your doctor. And if you don't see your doctor, I understand your doctor said to you, your doctor's office said, I'm not taking that plan. I want you just to call the billing office and say, hey, are you in the United Healthcare Choice Plus network? That's all you're going to ask. Are you and you're out of New York. You said you were in Florida, I believe. Did I miss that? Yes, didn't take it here in Florida. So you're going to just call their billing office and you're going to say, hey, are you in the United Healthcare Choice Plus network? That's all you're going to ask. And if they say yes, they're in your network. And if you have a problem with that, please email us at retirees@nycretirees.org. We will connect you to the people that will call that office and say, you're in our network. So that'll help you be able to figure that part out. But I understand it's frustrating. Trust me, I was on the phone yesterday with a Florida doctor's office arguing with them that they don't take Emblem. They're not in the network. And I said, but the patient is on Medicare. Do you take Medicare? Yes, but we don't take Emblem. You don't need to. When you're a Medicare retiree, Medicare's primary. If Medicare pays the bill, your secondary will pay. Not might pay, not could pay, not consider to pay. They will pay as long as Medicare paid first. So if it is a covered service, it doesn't matter that you're not in Emblem's network. However, if you are a pre-Medicare retiree or an active worker and you're on the NYCEPPO, they either have to be in the Emblem network if you're in the downstate 13 counties of New York or United Healthcare Choice Plus network. And that's literally on your card. So if you would look, your pre-Medicare, yes. So look on your card on the bottom right of the front. It should literally say that if you're in the Emblem Bridge network, you're on Emblem, and if you're not, you're everywhere else, you are on the United Healthcare Choice Plus network. We were like screaming at them last week, like, why didn't you put that shit bigger, like where people could see it? And especially make a separate card for people that live outside the downstate 13. Like, make the United logo bigger and the Emblem logo smaller, because people are going to go, red stuff, I don't want that stuff. Because doctors didn't like the Emblem plan because their reimbursement to them was like at the 1983 pay schedule. So like they're going, every time they walk in the door, they're only getting like $5 for you. That's why they stopped taking your plan outside New York, and they didn't want to treat you. So now your retirees that are outside of New York that are on this plan, NYCEPPO, actually have a network of doctors to see. And there's also a link that you can recommend your doctor to be in it if they're not. And if you're finding trouble with that, like I said, reach out to us because we can help you make those connections to try to get your doctor in faster. We understand that care is really important. So let's see if I missed another question.
Yeah, we had a good one from Joseph Scally right there.
Thank you for pointing that out. I just saw that. Can you address the pros and cons of a self-funded insurance plan in general and then in comparison to GHI CDP? Okay. I should have made coffee for that question, Joe. All right, here we go. So the pros and cons of a self-funded plan. Before you had insurance, this is not technically insurance. What is that difference? So GHI CBP, the insurance came from Emblem. Emblem, you went to the doctor, Emblem would pay the doctor. You went to another doctor, Emblem would pay the doctor. In the self-funded plan, the city of New York is paying your bills. Emblem is only the administrator. They're the ones like doing the paperwork and sending stuff back and forth. And United behind the scenes is doing the prior authorizations if you need to have something pre-authorized. This creates a concern for us. And we did a video on this over the summer because they're not under insurance. Insurance in the state of New York is overseen by a state office called DFS, Department of Financial Services. The insurance department. And they're the ones that look at the insurance and that they make sure that it covers all the New York mandates and that everything that they say that they have to cover, they cover medications like birth control pills or gender affirming care and things like that, that maybe other insurances wouldn't. Those are called state mandates, the things that the state says, if you're going to offer insurance in the state of New York, it must cover this. Self-funded plans isn't insurance. This is where the city of New York says, you're going to go to the doctor, I'm going to pay those bills. And they make a side deal with the insurance company over handling, it's called an administrative services agreement. They make an agreement with them to handle all the administrativeness because, look, let's be serious. OLR can barely answer your calls just on regular everyday shit. They definitely can't handle running an insurance plan. But the city of New York will pay your bills. And who does all that paperwork? The administrativeness of it? The insurance company does that. Not as an insurance company, as an administrator. Okay? Now, why is that a concern? Because the Municipal Labor Committee is in charge of this plan. They're the ones that negotiated this. The larger unions like UFT, Sanitation, DC 37, CWA 237, they're the ones that largely negotiated this plan and determined what would be important to be in it. We had a concern from the get-go because the city has to pay for this healthcare. Whereas if you have an insurance plan, the city would be paying a premium for you. The plan gets monitored and overseen by the state. Make sure that the state mandates are in the plan and that what you get, if you have a problem, you can complain to the state and they would intervene. In this, you don't have any of that. You have to hope that this plan still continues to include the state mandates. Now, you'll hear some of our videos like where the UFT and DC 37 said, this plan includes all the state mandates. Well, it does, but it doesn't have to. And we know from her that one of the union leaders was considering having Idaho mandates. And we were like, what the hell is that about? Because it would save money and it's cheaper. That's ridiculous. So you always have to hope that the people who are creating the design of this plan is putting in everything that the state would have required had this been insurance. The other thing is there's also this called grandfathering, in which there's certain controls that the state can look at to make sure that your copays or prior authorizations are not increasing. Now, you've seen your copays go up, right? I've seen the poll on your Facebook page. That's not because the insurance company is asking for the copay. That's because the Municipal Labor Committee, under the leadership then, because this plan was done while Harry was still in office, it was Harry, UFT, and DC 37 largely, negotiated those copays on all of you, on us. And they did that for savings as part of those municipal labor agreements, Municipal Labor Committee agreements, to fund collective bargaining. So you literally got contracts or raises as a result of the leadership allowing you to pay more for healthcare. This blew our mind, and I'm so glad you guys are listening to this and we're interested in learning about it, because we've been screaming about this since 2021, and then they hit us as retirees. So you may or may not know, once you retire, you're no longer in a union. You can be part of a retiree association or a chapter, but you're not in a collective bargaining agreement. And unions really cannot negotiate for current retirees. They can only negotiate for those in their union and for those employees in their union and their future retirement benefits. Me, I'm retired. I've been retired for 20 years. They're not supposed to do anything to me. They should have protected me. They should have protected what I earned, but they shouldn't have diminished it. Which is why retirees now, we have legislation we're trying to get passed to protect what we'd have in retirement. Because if some misinformed people thought it was a good idea to hit retirees with copays that they can't afford to save money, then that's literally at the expense of your life. And why is that important? So our income levels are very different. When I retired over 20 years ago, my pension is $35,000, and I make more than most DC 37 retirees, right? So now in another I don't know, decade or so, 2 decades, you guys will be retired because you just look young. And by the time you retire, who the hell knows what the increases will be like? I want to show you what this looks like. Top paid uniformed services in 1980, top paid police and fire, for example. In 1980, their top pay when they retired was $15,000, 15000. Blows your mind, right?
Absolutely.
Today, those guys are in their 80s and 90s. Their pension today is $26,000 with the measly cost of living adjustments that we get. And I want to tell you what that is since I have you guys paying attention. A cost of living adjustment for a retiree is an adjustment that you get. It's between 1% and 3% of the first $18,000, and that's if you make an $18,000 pension. This year, the cost, I'm pulling up my calculator because I suck at math, $18,000. This year's increase was 1.2%. My increase for the 2026 calendar year is $216. Divided by 12 months, my pension increased by $18 a month. Okay. Now, think about those firefighters and police officers and probably the sanitation workers, whatever your top pay was in 1980. You can probably ask your dads or your uncles. If their salaries were on par and they're still alive, that's what they're making. And so it's not a lot of money. So now take my generation, my pension's $35,000. They walked out at $8,000, half of 15. I walked out making $35,000, my pension, taxable. And I'm telling you, I'm struggling on that, even with the Social Security. Tomorrow, you may be in the same situation, even though you've got great income today. Because when I retired, I was like, yeah, this is great. I could live on this. And then I was living in Long Island and my taxes were going up $1,000 a year. And I was like, holy shit, I got taxed out of my house. So it's not that it gets better. You have to be able to look out for yourselves. And this is what we tried to tell some of the union leaders is that you're passing copays on. You're going, oh, well, it's only $15. But that union president makes a $500,000 salary. And he's not realizing that me going into the doctor, it's $15 for the office visit, $15 for the blood test, $15 for the x-ray. If I'm going in for chemo, it's $15 3 times a week plus blood work. And if my doctor happens to be in a hospital, I get hit with a $15 facility charge. I just now have to make a decision. Am I going to take my drugs or eat cat food for the week? This is what they did. And they had no clue that they did this. So this is why we came out really hard against them, because they weren't paying attention to what they were doing to us. They were not in unions. There's really no way for them to understand what we were going through. And so that put us in an affordability crisis where I have retired teachers who have a $28,000 net pension who are now in copay debt up to $4,500 that they can't pay. And their doctors want to refuse to see them because they owe them money. So this is why it's from those costs, because if they keep hitting you with them when you're retired, there's going to be a point where you're going to have health care, but you're not going to afford to be able to use it. So that's why we've been fighting that, specific issue. But your new plan, the concern back to Joseph, is that it's not really insurance. It's a self-funded plan. Why is that important to the city? Why did the city want it? Because there's a law in the state called, it's a HCRA tax, HCRA. And what it does is it literally taxes the insurance premium to the city. So the city is paying insurance tax on your health care for the state of New York. It's about, I think, a total of $30 or $50 million a year. We keep losing force now. Oh, there's some. So that's some of the concerns that we have with a self-funded plan, because we literally have to pray that the city and the municipal labor committee negotiating this plan is putting in all the state mandates and making sure that they're not charging you more copays. Like, for example, the state would say to them, the insurance company would come and say, no, shame on you, Emblem. We're not going to increase the premium $200. Like, or shame on you, Aetna. We're not going to allow you to raise your premium $150 a month. Go redo that. Go look at that again. Oh, copays? You want to jack your copays up to $150 from $10? No, you can't do that. And then there's that grandfathering status that I told you about, is to not confuse you more, but they lose certain protections if they raise the costs on you, the beneficiary, more than like $5 or $10. So those are the protections why it's important to have a state insurance and insurance that goes through a state oversight. This plan doesn't have that, which then really puts that burden on you guys as the beneficiaries of this plan to say, hey guys, like this is costing too much money, or hey, now they have to watch like what is the administrators doing. So what you don't know is healthcare always costs more money every year, costs more. And yet this Municipal Labor Committee promised the city with this new plan that they just gave you that they will save 10% than they did off the price of the plan last time. So they wanted to save the city $1 billion by implementing this plan. The only way in insurance to save money for the city who's offering this insurance is if that cost goes too high, they have to get money from somewhere, and it's going to come from you. Increased deductibles, increased copays, and more prior authorizations. So if you start seeing your healthcare being denied or prior authorizations where they weren't before, and you're having trouble and your doctor's having to appeal that multiple times, you better call your union and say, hey, listen, we didn't have this problem before. Why am I going through 3 levels of appeals to get something approved? My doctor's saying I need this. This is delaying or denying my access to care. And that was one of the biggest concerns, Joseph, because United Healthcare is one of the worst purveyors of that. That's why you see a lot of people on social media complaining about United Healthcare, is because they are the worst at prior authorization, delays, and denials of care. Okay. And there's an article that came out the other day in Stat Magazine that they were even paying nursing homes supposedly to let patients die because keeping them, you saw that? Keeping them alive cost them more money. I was like, holy shit. So that explains that. GHI was insurance. Had to go through every time Emblem wanted to raise a cost. Well, the city wanted Emblem to raise the cost, because that came out in one of our lawsuits. The city said, no, the union said, no, the insurance company wanted to raise those copays on those Medicare retirees. And Emblem told the judge, no, sir. The city said, we're going to implement copays on those Medicare retirees, and just told us to do it. And they did. So hopefully that explains your question, Joseph, that long rambling answer I have. But insurance isn't easy, and it's definitely not, pretty or sexy, but I'm trying to explain it in a way you'll understand. Michael says, a couple of questions, not sure if asked. With the stabilization fund hitting 0, what does that mean for us? I'm hearing from our top guys that it doesn't affect us in 831. Is that true? No, it's not. Okay. I know. Loaded question, Joseph. Loaded answer. But I will never bullshit you. I will always tell you what you need to hear, and maybe not what you want to hear. So the stabilization fund, let's get into that. That's a great question. What is the stabilization fund? So back in the 80s, the city decided with the unions that they wanted to be able to offer you 2 free plans. Some of the unions will say, well, healthcare is collectively bargained. Well, yes and no. Why do you have healthcare? Well, that's because in 1947, Mayor LaGuardia wanted to give healthcare to his workers. He was the mayor. He wanted you to have inexpensive healthcare. And that's how they created the HIP plan, which back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s, an HMO plan was a good one to have. Even though it was a narrow network, there weren't a lot of doctors. I remember back in my day, which is the year of the flood, that we used to have HMO HIP clinic back on Queens Boulevard. Now they kind of expanded. You can go to doctor's offices, not just a clinic. And it was an inexpensive plan. And it's kind of changed its design over the years. Now, most people, as the GHI plan, because that also came about around the same time back in the 40s, it was a PPO plan, meaning you could use a preferred provider network. It wasn't as restricted as the HMO. Many people liked that plan. You had more choices, and you didn't need prior authorizations all the time. So as the majority of people were in the PPO, they wanted to be able to offer you 2 free plans, because right now the free plan back in the 40s was the HMO plan, because you have a law. When Medicare became available in 1966, Mayor John Lindsay said, we have health care, but I want to pay for it. I don't want my employees and retirees to pay for health care. Now we have Medicare. President Johnson gave us Medicare. Let's give the retirees Medicare. So for active workers, he did that by personnel order. When you active workers become Medicare eligible, you will get Medicare and we're going to pay for it. And then he said, since we're paying for employee health care, we're going to pay for Medicare for those retirees. Let's pass a law for retirees, because they're no longer employed and not in unions. He had to pass a law to do it. And what that law says is Administrative Code 12-126. It was the basis of some of our lawsuits against the city. It says the city will pay the full cost of health coverage up to the HIP HMO for every employee, retiree, and their dependent. And that's how healthcare was paid for by the city. So now you'd say HIP is the benchmark. Whatever the HIP rate is what the city has to pay up to. Now, the GHI plan, they did what they call the equalization agreement in the 80s. And they said, if the GHI plan is lower than the HIP rate, then the difference between the two plans, because HIP is higher, this is the benchmark, the difference between those two plans, we're going to create a funding mechanism. That difference we're going to put into a fund called the Stabilization Fund. Because if ever the GHI plan goes higher than the benchmark, that puts you at risk of paying premium. How do we prevent workers from paying premium? Have a cash fund that has money in it, that in case GHI goes higher than the HIP benchmark, money can come out of that fund and pay the premium for you so you don't have to. And you still have two choices of free plans, HIP or GHI. So the common sense person would say, well, we should do whatever we could to make sure that benchmark is as high as we can get it. We should protect that benchmark. But that's not what the MLC did. The MLC suppressed that benchmark by adding more copays to it, increasing deductibles, and they suppressed it so much that more money was coming out of that fund that they should have protected to pay your premium. They also used it for things it was not supposed to be used for. And if you aren't familiar, Brad Lander, the outgoing comptroller last year, did a study on this, and he audited the last 20 years of stabilization fund accounting and found that the Municipal Labor Committee and the last several mayors misused that fund, used it for the teachers' contract to give teachers raises in 2014. In 2018, used it for DC 37 raises, then gave all of the unions as a quid pro quo kind of to get those two agreements to be done, the 14 and the 18 agreement. Every union that was supporting that they were passing this gave a little bit of money, $165 a year for every employee and retiree to go in those unions' welfare funds. That's how they sweetened the deal to make the unions that were in there, there's 102 unions in the MLC, kind of agree to this off use of this money. This was disturbing to us when we heard this in 21, because we were always taught you never touch the benchmark. You want that benchmark to be high and strong, because God forbid that GHI plan ever went higher, and it did in, like, I think 19, 20, 21. That's why. So your question is, now that that fund is defunct, here's another problem with it being defunct. It also paid for the widows and children's welfare fund. You guys too have widows and children. So the people that we lose in the line of duty, fire has them, EMS has them, police have them, corrections has them, sanitation have them. Their welfare fund benefits, the city pays for their health care, but it's the unions that were paying for the welfare fund benefits. I would have negotiated that to make the city pay for that, but that didn't happen. The stabilization fund was paying for that. As of November, the city stopped paying for that and put that burden back on the unions. Now, for unions that don't have a lot of lines of duty, it might not be an issue, especially most of the civilian unions, but the uniform unions, that is a problem, because sanitation's lost workers, EMS, fire, police, we've all lost workers. Now, one of the other practices is typically when someone dies in the line of duty, we give them a posthumous promotion. So now, let's say your officers union, because this is what happens in fire and police, we promote a police officer or firefighter to the next union as a title. And now their benefit comes out of that fund. But now that officers union is typically smaller than the rank and file union, and that creates a huge burden. The stabilization fund is for every single union in the city of New York, whether you're in the MLC or not. And I'm going to prove it to you one more time. Pull your last contract. In your contracts, after the 14, look after 2014, after 2018, those 2014 and 2018 agreements were rolled in every single union's contract, every one of them, which committed every union citywide to save that money in those 14 and 18 agreements, and it was recurring. So I don't know who's telling you that the defunct status, the insolvency of the stabilization fund is not 831's problem. It sure as hell is. It's every union's problem. Because now I can't tell you what is that no one has said, no union leader has told us, is the equalization agreement still in place? What is going on with the stabilization fund? We know that it's insolvent. It has $3.1 billion in unpayable debt. No one has explained that. Nobody. So I can't tell you where that is. The fund is supposed to be funded by that equalization agreement, like I told you. And it's also supposed to be funded by $35 million a year that was collectively bargained. So it absolutely does mean that. Right now, there is no protection if whatever cost, because now they took away the insurance, there isn't a premium per se. So I don't know if this plan becomes more expensive. We know that this plan that they promised to save $1 billion to the city, if this plan does not do that, there was about 80 pages of redacted pages in this contract. I can't tell you what it says, but it wouldn't be between the city and it wouldn't be between the insurance companies as to what will happen. But I will tell you what is going to be in there. The administrator was pressured to save $1 billion for the city. And if the administrator, United and Emblem, cannot make sure that those benchmarks are there, they're going to raise your costs. They're going to raise the deductibles, the copays, and increase more prior authorization. In the Medicare Advantage plan for your retirees, there was information in there that said that if the subsidy provided by the federal government was not enough or was ever reduced, that Aetna could reduce the benefits that were provided or increase the cost to the retiree. So we know if that was in our contract, there's got to be something similar in yours. So I don't know who told you that, Michael, but they're absolutely 100% wrong. Go back and look at your own contracts. I think I may have posted one on your page like a month or two ago that actually shows the 2014 MLC agreement, 2018 MLC agreement were both rolled into your unit agreements. Hopefully that answers your question. Would you say it's a safe assumption actives will sooner than later start paying for their medical? I have a feeling that may happen after I think the second year of this plan. So after the first 12 months, we will know there will be some telltale signs if costs will increase. But by year 2, you will definitely know, yes, that there will be. Marianne, not to mention that when you retire, if you make a few dollars over the cap, we have to pay taxes. Angelica, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about on the Medicare plan that you're paying an IRMA? Because if that's tell me first if you are, because I don't want to go into that if you're not. Are you talking about paying an IRMA on your Medicare? Is the MLC the primary decision makers in regards to the MIC EPPO? So Joseph, really interesting. The MLC does not hold a bargaining certificate. Their power is literally conveyed by union leaders not recognizing that this organization doesn't have a bargaining certificate. That is yours. Every union member, it is a mandatory subject of bargaining healthcare. It is a working condition. And yet, this organization usurps that power by negotiating with the city of New York. Your union leaders go to this meeting once a month, and yet they don't bring what they're learning back to your boards or the membership. because there should have been more involvement in that, and there wasn't. So right now, the short answer is yes, they are the decision makers, but they shouldn't be, because that is your right as a union member. It's a healthcare is a mandatory subject of bargaining. Any of you are really good researchers, go up to the New York City Office of Collective Bargaining. You will see a dozen different decisions that healthcare is a mandatory subject of bargaining for every single union member. Your union has a bargaining certificate, the MLC does not. That was the president of the union's response when questioned. Your union member? Your union president said that?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no. Totally wrong. Totally. And you know what? I'll tell you, after this, I will find your recent contract and I will find the 1418 agreement. I will tell you what page it's on, and it's rolled into your contract. And because that stabilization fund paid for you, I don't understand how he could say that that doesn't affect you. It affects every single union because it protected. That stabilization fund paid for the premium difference between every pre-65 retiree, pre-Medicare retiree, and every active worker if the GHI plan went above. They replaced the GHI plan with the NYCE PPO. It is a replacement, but it still would be subject to this. Now, if this plan becomes more expensive than HIP and there's nothing put in place, there's not a new equalization agreement, you will be paying premium. There's no other way to say that. Why do you think the five unions are... Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to ask you a question. I think you were alluding to that. There's over 100 unions in the city. I'm just curious, what was the benefits of my union being one of 5 to give up our privacy to the insurance companies?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Great question. Give me 1 second as my dog is scratching at the door and she's got to go out. So hold on.
Okay.
I'm coming. Okay. Great question. So, one of the ways to save the $1 billion was $100 million in savings could be made by all of the unions agreeing to give welfare fund data to the insurance companies and the MLC. So an insurance company would want your drug data because they're then able to look at, see who's using what medications and what they're being treated for on the medical side. So Emblem United will know what your medical is because they're administering those bills, right? They're doing the prior authorizations, they're having the city pay those bills. But what they don't have is the drug data. They don't know what your welfare funds, what medications are going through your welfare funds. So their argument is they can save more money to the city if they had all of that data, and to have all of the unions share that data would save $100 million to the city. It would be part of that $1 billion that the unions agreed to. Well, the majority of the unions were like, hell no, we're not sharing our data. Like, that's our members' personal stuff. Like, we're not giving that to you. So who agreed were the 5 unions on the executive board of the Municipal Labor Committee. Sanitation, UFT, DC 37, 237, and CWA is what we were told. Harry was gone by this point, and this announcement was made by Henry Garrido, who was the co-chair. So if I were you, I would ask your union leadership, is the Sanitation Welfare Fund sharing drug data to the MLC and the healthcare plan like was announced at the MLC meeting? Because that was announced that the five unions of the top board were sharing their drug data from their welfare funds to the insurance companies and the MLC committees to save this $1 billion. Now, that only consists of about, those 5 unions was, I think, about 3/4 of the city. UFT and DC 37 both make up 2/3, and the rest of those unions were darn close to like 3/4 of the entire city population. So they weren't going to save the full $100 million, but they were going to come close. It was prorated based upon the number of union members that were providing that drug, being provided that drug data. So that's why. Is the decision making within the MLC weighted, meaning the larger unions basically run the show? Yes. So another great question. So I did several videos on the Municipal Labor Committee as its inception and its development. Its bylaws were founded in 1966, and it was never changed in the weighted structure. And what does that mean? Every union in the MLC gets one vote for every 250 members. So, for example, and I actually I think I still have this on my screen. I will look up sanitation and I will tell you what they've reported. Sanitation officers 444 says that they have 1,251 members. The sanitation union, which is yours, says that they have 6,880 members. So your local gets 28 votes in the MLC. So I don't know if that's a real number, not a real number. That's what the MLC reported just like 2 months ago. But yes. And so back in the 80s, I will tell you, I think it was the late 80s, the UFT went back into the MLC. Why were they not in it earlier? And that's because the original president of the UFT was Al Shanker, and the original chair of the DC 37 and MLC chair was Victor Gottbaum, and they hated each other because back in the 70s, the UFT tried to raid the DC 37 local, one of the locals, to get their DOE workers to join the UFT, and it caused a rift. They just kind of got ugly. They were always fighting with each other. Victor Gottbaum said Al Shanker drank too much, and he was an angry man, and they didn't want anything to do with him, and they wouldn't let him back in. And then it wasn't until later, like the late 80s, early 90s, did the United Federation of Teachers come back in. But those two unions right now, DC 37 has about 200,000 members, and so does UFT. They control the 2/3 vote needed to pass any motion in the Municipal Labor Committee, even though there's 102 locals in the MLC. And it is a voluntary organization, although they treat it like the mafia. They allegedly say once you're in, you can't get out. But we know that there's unions like Plumbers Local 1 got out. There's several unions that got out. And they stopped their dues to the MLC because it was not working for them or their members. They felt it was not democratic and it was not union solidarity. If the two unions could make decisions that would have a negative impact on other people's members, other unions' members, they didn't want anything to do with it. Although, unfortunately, the city of New York still holds them to it. What is the benefit of the unions to stay in the MLC, especially if the teachers... And that's a great question, Michael. We've been trying to get them to, rise up like good, true unions and say, dude, like we need to have a come to Jesus meeting with you. There should be no reason why you should be controlling what's happening to our members. We don't want that. And we don't want this plan, or we don't want these changes, or we don't want these copays. Kiss my butt. But they're not doing that. And we don't understand why, because my organization literally showed, like, we're retired. We organized in the middle of a mass death event, a pandemic, and organized retirees on social media while the whole world was shut down to organize, to raise money, to create an organization, to sue the city of New York. And we've done so for the last 4.5 years. Why are the unions not coalescing together against the two unions, bullying all of them into these bad healthcare decisions and raising costs on everybody? There should be no reason at all that your raises, your collective bargaining should be predicated on you paying more for healthcare. And that's exactly what they did. It was very frustrating because we used to listen to Harry. Harry, actually, we kind of recognized Harry was having some problems because he went into an event, and I can't remember which one it was, but we have a recording of it, where he was talking about the Medicare Advantage plan that no longer existed and was going through the brochure explaining the plan like it was going to be implemented. And no one in the room knew that the plan wasn't going to be implemented anymore because we stopped it in court and the vendor walked away. But he still went through like this hour presentation of the brochure of this plan like it was going to happen. And that's where we started getting clips of him going, you know, we never touched retiree healthcare, but we don't have a choice anymore because we don't have the money. We're like, you don't pay for retiree healthcare. But we didn't understand what the hell he was talking about. But he made everyone in the room think that they didn't have a choice. And meanwhile, we're going, dude, we're union. You don't diminish a benefit for a retiree or a union worker. When is that okay? Like the other day, we heard Shirley Aldebal. She's a new councilwoman, came out of 32 BJ and AFSCME, who right now sits in District 23 in the Bronx. And several retirees were asking her not to force us into Medicare Advantage. Please sign legislation to protect retiree health care. And she took the position that you should be happy with what you have because there's people that don't have insurance. I'm sorry, we're union. Are you telling me I should be happy with you reducing my benefits and giving me a shit plan, but I should be happy I have a shit plan because at least I have a plan? That's not the way this should have gone. So sadly, no, they're not fighting back, and I just don't know why. I write a Substack. I have a Substack profile on top of everything else I have, and I will be writing about this issue because this actually came up the other day, why they're doing this. And it also has a correlation with current day politics, which I try not to get into. But there's a correlation about why people will accept being bullied and not fight back is to get along. Like there's one of the union leaders, he's a small union, just a couple hundred people. And he says, Marianne, if I have to fight with them, they might retaliate and make my life more miserable. It's just easier just to get along, go along to get along. I'm like, what? Oh my God. And here I am, like, you know, way older than them. And we're fighting back and they'll call me all sorts of names. Harry called us rump retirees in the press. And I'm not going to get insulted. I'm going to fight back. I don't know why they're not, honey. I just really don't. I wish they did. I feel like our union has failed its fiduciary responsibility to all of its members, and I don't know how to fix this. And Michael, you're not alone in that. We got calls several times this past week from other retirees and other union members because they feel it was a failure of a fiduciary responsibility. It was the same exact word. And we were like, holy cow, like, this was huge. That people are actually paying attention to this. We believe it was a fiduciary failure. That audit by the comptroller, if you read the last 10 pages of that PDF, the MLC writes a memo, and so does the city. In the MLC memo, they literally admit that they forced retirees into Medicare Advantage, not to fix the problem because it wasn't going to fix it. They knew that, they said. But they did it to create a funding stream for this fund that they misused, the stabilization fund. That's a fiduciary failure because they didn't come up with all this time. They didn't come up with a plan B of what to do to fix it. And yet they're still negotiating away your healthcare benefits. And because active workers don't really know this, because the union president or the delegate goes to this MLC meeting, they don't come back with the information to the board. The board doesn't have the ability to understand what happened at that MLC meeting. They just take what happened at the MLC. It's like, what is that, like trauma by Munchausen's? Like they're traumatized to believe that they have to do what this MLC says. They don't, but they don't fight back. And I really wish that they did, because that needs a whole new reckoning, not what's happening there now. But it is a fiduciary failure. Absolutely. Every one of the unions that voted to do this, and there's not a lot. Like if you go onto the history of our page, like we've shared images before of who voted yes and who voted no. But I will tell you, since this mess started, your union, 831, voted in support of every single one of these changes, and we have those votes on audio, so we know who voted and how. And that was another thing that they were keeping secret. They were keeping secret the weighted vote, which only came out because the PBA demanded it and proved to them in their own bylaws. It says that that's supposed to be public. Every time there's a vote in the MLC, they're supposed to roll call vote every local and say, local 831, you have whatever, 28 votes. How do you vote? They weren't making that public. And Henry Garrido from DC 37 kept insisting that they didn't have to. And so finally, the PBA rep in this one of those last meetings over the summer said, no, your own bylaws, our own bylaws say, well, you have to share this information with us. And they finally relented and gave it to them. They're supposed to be updating it quarterly, but they don't. So I'm hoping this turns a new leaf, at least for that. But I agree with you, Michael. I believe it was a fiduciary failure. I believe that the body did not know their history, didn't know about the equalization agreement, or they didn't understand it. And if the boards of the unions had more understanding of what the MLC is, what the bylaws are, what the equalization agreement is, then I don't think any of you would have agreed to this. This literally started in 2014 with the United Federation of Teachers. Their contract was May 5th of 2014. And Bob Lynn, who is right now in the Mamdani administration supporting Dean Foulahan, who was also under the de Blasio administration when this deal was made, they all worked together. And Bob has been there as former commissioner of OLR. He's been there since the Koch administration. He's the guy that loves pattern bargaining, that, you know, gets one union, gets picked off, sets a pattern and screws the rest of us. At least with the uniforms, you've got it a little bit better, but still not much. But yes, I agree with you 100%. Scott, is it true on Medicare Senior Care, NYPD, you can get a free premium Medicare prescription drug plan and keep the PBA Caremark Union plan as secondary? No. If you are Medicare, you can only have one drug plan. You cannot have two plans. And that's the same with sanitation 831's Medicare. Medicare only allows you to have one drug plan. You can have senior care, but you cannot have two drug plans. You cannot have a marketplace drug plan and a union drug plan. That is not true. And if they do find out, you will be kicked off one of them. And welcome, Scott. This is sanitation. So I don't see any more questions. We're in hour 16. So do you have any more questions, Chris, or is it something else?
Yeah, Marianne, I wanted to touch on something you said, backtrack a little bit. I know that a lot of people have expressed concerns in terms of retaliation, or if you question, our union president, things like that. Some fear of retaliation or being blackballed. And then the other concern I have is I have about 7.5 years on the job with sanitation, and I've been advocating for a lot of things, such as quarterly union meetings that we're supposed to have that were not happening. They've started to happen, but we also are not getting enough members coming there. Like our shop steward meetings will have more numbers than actual general membership meetings. And it's such a problem. I'm trying to find a way to motivate our workforce to come out and show face and feel comfortable asking questions, to our union representatives and president.
So it's important that happen. You should have union delegates, right? And those delegates in the shops should be encouraging those people to come to meetings. I don't know if your meetings are in person or virtual, but however they are, or if they're hybrid, they should be attending because they should be knowing what's going on. Part of not knowing is what put us all in this situation. For example, back in 2014 and 18, when those MLC agreements were done, they were rolled into your contract, whether you know it or not, and you ratified those contracts. And it would have been something like a side letter or even an appendix or a statement that would have said your health care continues to be premium free due to the MLC agreement. But you didn't know what the MLC agreement was. And you didn't know that MLC agreement sold off your retirees, because if you did, you probably wouldn't have agreed to it. UFT, when they passed that contract, they said your healthcare remains premium free due to Appendix B. Well, when they all were looking for Appendix B, it was nowhere to be found. The UFT said, don't worry about it. It's just an MLC agreement. Just ratify the contract. And they did. And they ratified the contract that gave them 18% raises over the course of 9 years that they didn't have a raise during Mayor Bloomberg. They didn't know what they did because no one asked. I mean, when they did ask, they were brushed off, but they didn't insist. And this is why we keep saying, whenever you get a contract, don't look for the summary. Demand the contract, because the contract's always in the details. If I said to you, hey, Chris, buy my car, here's a summary. It's got leather seats and headlights and the hatch opens and it's got this cool sunroof. But if you didn't see the rest of the contract, that I'm literally making a little admission that, you know, the sunroof doesn't open and it leaks when it rains, and the hatch only opens if you pry it open with a crowbar. Like, you're not going to know that.
Absolutely.
And this is what drove me crazy, is I'm like, God damn it, we're New Yorkers, man. Like, no one would do that. Like, they would say, like, this is a taillight guarantee unless you're showing me, like, it's this guarantee is only as good so as long as you see my taillights. Like, really, guys? Like, come on. How do you sign a blank contract? How do you sign this contract with 80 redacted pages that you don't know what's in it?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, problem. Yeah.
It is a big problem. I think we have one more question.
One last question before you leave. Your thoughts on our fight and the fight of active workforce under the new administration. Thanks for your time. So, I don't know what our fight is if you're talking about the retiree fight. That's also this issue. So we have sued the city 3 times. We won the first case, unanimous decisions all the way up to the New York State Court of Appeals. The second case is a copay case that the mayor then, oh, cool, I got it right. The second case was the copay case where they sacked us with those copays in 2022 as a penalty for winning in court from 21 to 22. Those copays amounted to a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars, and they were illegally charged, and we're working on getting that back. But the mayor then went and renegotiated the contract and hit us with copays again for the first time in 60 years in 2025, which are costing people a fortune. Those, only way to stop those or roll those back is by legislation, which we're trying. If you're free, we're going to Albany and we're taking a whole busload of people, 100 people with us. You're welcome to come with us. We'll put up a sign-up sheet. We meet at City Hall at 7:30 in the morning. The bus leaves at 8. We go up to Albany. We take a day of lobbying to pass our legislation to protect current retiree health care. And then we come back. We feed you lunch and dinner. You'll eat on the bus. And then we get back to like City Hall at about 7, 8 o'clock at night. That's the 24th. So if you're free and you want to come and join us, active or retired, you're free to do that. The legislation that we are doing would protect a current retiree. I can't protect active workers because you're represented by your union. So if you want to fight back, you've got to fight back your union because I can't. And they make sure that I stay in my wheelhouse. Even though they didn't have a problem sticking their hands in my pocket, they make sure I don't touch theirs. The third case was called Bentkowski, and that's the case on forcing us into Medicare Advantage. We won in Supreme. We had a unanimous decision in appeals. The mayor appealed again. The New York State Court of Appeals, the highest court in the state, overturned the lower court's decision. I believe it was a political decision, and tossed it back to the Supreme Court and said, go finish arguing your case there. And that's because we sued on like 13 different issues. The court only settled on like 2 or 3. So the judge said, nah, we don't really think you proved that you were made a promise that we could force the city to keep. Besides, if we do, there'll probably be a whole bunch of other retirees around the state that'll sue their cities, and we don't want to deal with that. They'll go back and argue the other 10. So we're back in Supreme Court on that, which is, again, why we need legislation to protect current retirees. Now, the new administration, sweetheart, I can't tell you what this new administration's going to do because this guy has not taken my phone calls or our lobbyist phone calls in 13 months. So you might see me be a little snarky on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or wherever, but not yet has he agreed to meet with me. And if he takes the same position, remember, in his circle are all the people that did this. Dean Foulahan was the director of Office of Management and Budget, OMB, under de Blasio's first term. Under the second term, he was his first deputy mayor, 14 and 18 deal, right? He was involved in both. Then you have Bob Lynn, who's also helping advise Dean Foulahan, who was the commissioner of OLR for all of these deals. Then you have Michael Mulgrew, UFT, Henry Garrido, DC 37, who were also on the transition team for Mamdani. Now you also have DC 37's assistant director, whatever her name was, Jamila Edwards, whatever her title was. She came out of DC 37. She's just assigned I think a deputy mayor position under Mamdani's campaign, under Mamdani's team. I can't tell you what's going to happen with him. I can tell you that more if the man ever agrees to meet with me. But if he takes the position like the United Federation of Teachers former healthcare committee chair was Vinnie Gaglione, Vinnie told all of his little circle of retired teachers, don't ask her questions. She knows more than us. So I just can't tell you that, Joe. Sorry. I followed your progress for years. Your determination is admirable and your knowledge is extremely helpful. Thanks for your time and answer. You're welcome. I'm also Sicilian and I don't like being screwed. So that also does help. Marianne sent you a letter from the PBA as my question. Okay, I will take a look. Ellen, if folks are scared to attend DSNY union meetings, they should join New York City Public Service retirees and be able to learn from us. We have actives and members from all unions. And Ellen's right. And she used to be a DSNY, so she can help support, get you guys riled up and support. You should not be afraid of your union leader. If you're afraid of your union leader, there's a problem. Then that means that like the union leader needs to be held accountable because whatever happened to union solidarity? Like, otherwise that makes him a king, a lord, a god. No, you are your union. You, the union members, the guys and gals that pay the dues. You are the union. It's not the boss. It's not the guy in the suit. It's not the guy that's in the Puzzle Palace Tower, the guy that's running the office, the president of the union. You are the union. And without you, there is no union. And he has to know that. So if 100 people show up at a union meeting and they're not happy about something, damn it, he'd better listen to you. Otherwise, you guys are going to organize and you're going to run against them. It's happened before. Look, in the United Federation of Teachers, they allow a portion of their retirees to vote in a union election. No retiree can ever vote on a contract, but a portion of their retirees are allowed to vote in the election for officers. 23,000 out of, I think, the 89,000 retirees that they have. During this whole issue, retired chapter was run by the same caucus of the president of the union, Unity Caucus. Their paras, which are the people that help the children in the classroom with their disabilities and such, right? They're the lowest paid in the United Federation of Teachers. They make like what my pension is, like they're $40,000 people. So they don't make what the teachers make. And every time the union president was negotiating raises, he built in no equity. So the teachers still got the highest raises. They moved up. The paras still got the same raise, but their salaries stayed low. He never tried to get them to come up any higher than the teachers. Always kept them separated. Mm-hmm. During this whole fight, we helped both the retired teachers and the paras organize. They lost, the Unity Caucus lost the retired teacher chapter to the retirees that supported what we were doing. And they lost largely the election for the paras. All from a bunch of angry retirees getting involved in their election. We gave them our platform. I have over 30,000 people in our Facebook page, to over 12,000 people on our YouTube channel, over thousands of people on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. We have over 160,000 people in our email list. We have reach. That's why they were afraid. So you want to get your union leadership to listen to you, remind them you are the union. And if you're not happy with something and they're not listening to you, you need to run against them.
Now, what happens in a situation like one of the quarterly meetings? They scheduled it on a day. This is a very sanitation specific question. They scheduled it on a day where most of the membership would not be able to attend. And I called the union hall and I asked and I said, you guys knew we wouldn't be able to attend. Oh, this was the only day the president was able to hold a meeting. We had to fulfill our quarterly meeting duties. This was the last one of the year. I mean, it's unacceptable.
Yes, that was done, calculated, and on purpose. So we've seen that before as well, or they'll schedule a meeting during a time like on a 9/11 event when most people are at memorials. Like, that's really dirty.
Yes.
And they didn't want to change the date of that event, or they knew it was conflicting with a larger event, something that they knew people had already were going to, and they planned a meeting for that day. Look, your meetings are quarterly. Every organization has to plan events. We have board meetings that have to be done quarterly. I'm human. Sometimes we screw up, and sometimes there's calendar conflicts that doesn't enable me to have that. Maybe it's a quarter and a week, or a quarter and 2 days. Make an accommodation. And if you really wanted to do that, look, I'm retired. I don't get paid to do what I do. I do my Friday Night Live every Friday for my members because that's important to me to keep them updated. I don't get paid for that either. And then I know you guys need help and need information, and you guys have been struggling. We're still talking at 8:30 at night. It's an hour and a half on this call. I don't get paid for this either, but it's important to me, being labor, being retired union, having a labor relations degree, coming out of the labor movement, that you guys have what you need to empower you, one, for your healthcare. You all have spouses and kids. If your union is not helping you understand your healthcare plan or understand your drug plan, there's a problem. That's a disconnect. They're not speaking to you. And they shouldn't be arguing with you. They should be trying to get you to understand their position or why they're taking the position that they're taking. And if they can't justify that, you have to hold them accountable. My position is we need unions in this city, and we need damn good, strong unions, but I don't need corrupt unions. Because otherwise it makes the people that want to fight us, it gives them more ammunition to fight us. And we don't need that, because there's enough people trying to take down unions as it is. So we should agree more.
I couldn't agree more. Well said.
Yeah. So honestly, it's going to mean getting people out at those meetings to say, we don't like what's going on. You need to listen to us. Because I'll tell you, Michael Mulgrew from the United Federation of Teachers walked back his support Medicare Advantage, not because he wanted to, but because he knew if he didn't, he was going to lose his election next. So it was part of self-preservation. I better listen to these people.
Absolutely.
Yes. So unions organize, union members organize. You see that there's protests all over this country when people don't like something. That just doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. It happens organically, but it's also as a result of saying, hey, I don't like this bullshit. Let's go out there with a sign.
Absolutely.
You can do that at your own union hall. Because when they were doing this shit at the MLC, we were parking a truck out in front of your union hall on Cliff Street, making sure that Harry freaking saw it, because he was holding those meetings virtually. And he hated seeing his face on the side of that billboard truck. That's all I'm going to say. We did that to Henry Garrido. I'm DC 37. So Henry was pissing us off, really something awful last year. We put his face, we had a photo created of him sitting at a desk with his feet up on the desk with his shoes off. So we had these tiny little child feet, and we were just trying to demasculate him. So here he was, like, sitting in this, with all these statues behind him and these awards. And there was a sign behind him that said, like, you know, diminish retiree healthcare and charge cost to retirees, rump retirees, which is what Harry called us to the press. And then there's Henry sitting at his desk, name tag, and we wrote Henry Garrido, loser. And then here he was with his feet up on the desk with no shoes and these tiny little toes. And of course, he did not like seeing that photo. We had that truck parked outside his union office every week for like 3 months.
That's awesome.
So I could be a little bitchy.
Listen, we'll take it. We'll take it. We need all the help we can get.
I know. Let's see. Oops. He will be held accountable. This is a new day and age. And look, you guys are union. Act like it. You were one of the more militant unions in the day. Go back to that. Like, I'm not saying like set the city on fire. Like, I am saying organize yourselves, get your members fired up. You don't like the status quo. You don't need the status quo. You have the ability to change that. You could make your union leadership's life miserable, or he could make your life happy. How do they want it? It's up to you. Work with him to make the change. And if he refuses to make the change and he refuses to listen to you and he's not giving you good reasons why that can't be, then rise up and do what you need to do. Take back your union. That's the best thing you can do. There's a common thing that when someone leaves, they appoint a successor. And unfortunately, sometimes that keeps the status quo because you, the membership, the body, the rank and file, the boots on the ground, did not vote that person in. And then everyone else goes, ugh, it's the same old shit all over again. What the hell should we bother? And then they don't turn out. Like in the teachers union, you have like 190,000 active teachers. If I tell you, I think it was like only 50,000 or 30,000 people voted, the numbers were pitiful.
Yeah.
And more retirees, because in the teachers union, a portion of the retirees could vote. Almost more retirees voted than active workers. That tells you there's apathy. And I hate to see that. So yes, hold them accountable. Get yourselves active. Go garage by garage on your days off. Tell people what you don't like. Tell people what's happening. Show them whatever it is, videos. If you need something to help you get that message across so that they understand what happened, we can create a video for you to help explain that. And there's like probably 1,000 videos on our channel. Pick the one that you want. You can search our channel for something specific. We even have, if you even search Harry's name or Harry Nispoli, you'll have the videos from the early days of Harry up there, like him saying stupid shit to us all the time. There's stuff you can find. And if you don't find it, let me know. We'll find it for you. We'll create you one. But I don't want to, like old Italian adage, don't get angry, get even. But I mean, rise up and take back what's yours and make your union work for you. Don't just accept the status quo if that's not what you want. You are the union. You have to remember that.
I couldn't agree more.
One of the things of this fight is these union bosses is for actives to unite with retirees because they don't want us to stand their MO. Yes, I love it too, Laura, because we've been hoping that this would happen in 4.5 years of trying to fight to get actives to listen, because we always said today 2021, we said 2021, we said they're coming after us. We're the active workers. Why don't they know that this is happening? They voted for these contracts. Why are they not paying attention? They're coming after us today. Tomorrow, they're coming after you. You need to know that the reason you're having these issues in your healthcare is because the Municipal Labor Committee, unfortunately led by your past president, voted for these things to happen, voted for copays, voted for deductibles, voted for narrow networks, voted for prior authorizations. That happened under his leadership as the chair of the MLC. We have minutes to those meetings, not all of them. We have many years worth of minutes. We have videos, we have audios that people were sent us. Use that information to empower your people to understand that your union was party to those decisions. If your current union president, I think someone said to me, he was the vice president under Harry.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember hearing this man, Dennis Shook. I don't ever remember hearing this name. I don't ever remember hearing him at this meeting. I always remember in all of the years of we're fighting this, it was always Harry. And I'll tell you, all the other unions, they did not have, and a lot of times when they called these votes, they would say, come to this meeting. They may call a spontaneous vote, or they may say, come next week, we're doing it. They would not give the boards an opportunity to learn these issues, to bring them back. So for example, on this NYC EPPO plan, they gave some of the information, which was still limited, to the union presidents. They only gave them 1 day to look at the contract at DC 37 between the hours of 10 and 3. And I think it was on like September 10th or something. And they only notified them on a Friday that they had till that like Tuesday to go look at it in person. And if they did, they could bring one person, they could take no pictures and make no copies, and you couldn't bring it back to your union. How is that okay?
It's not.
And that's why, and I'm not going to defend your current union president because I don't know him and I haven't spoken to him, but he may not have known because Harry may not have told him. When I talked to the other unions, they didn't know either. Their union leaders made these decisions in these meetings, and many of them didn't like that stuff was getting leaked out because they didn't want it known how they voted. There's no transparency. And that's another thing that's in the Brad Lander audit. There's no transparency in the MLC. There's no minutes from the steering committee meetings. There's no transparency whatsoever. There's no agenda between OLR and the MLC. I can't tell you, and neither they could tell Brad what happened. Fiduciary responsibility. This reminds me of something else, Michael. In the Brad Lander report, he says that the Office of Labor Relations filed false financial records with the Comptroller's office that the stabilization fund was meeting the benchmarks in the appropriate accounting procedures. Read the audit. You need, let me see if I can quickly pull up. Here is the PDF. You need to read the PDF because the last 10 pages of this document I'm dropping in the chat. The last 10 pages is the memo the memo from the MLC to the Comptroller and the memo from the city to the Comptroller saying, we don't believe you, you're bullshit, this is crap. But I'm going to tell you, like Brad or don't like Brad, he audited 20 years of financial records of the stabilization fund. I would believe the Comptroller over the MLC, especially because we know what the MLC did. So, yeah. The unions used to be able to get away with so much before. Yeah, that's before the Marianne factor. Before they pissed off a whole bunch of retirees and stole from us, that made us very angry and watch every freaking move. And it shows you that the union leaders and some of the union leaders in that MLC are so angry, but they're afraid of retaliation or retribution that they leak us stuff to say because they know we'll say it. So organize. That's the best you could do. Give your members something to hope and fight for.
We're working on it. I just feel like this generation is so passive, and a lot of them are just caught up in their own worlds. We're also being very overworked, and we're dealing with new management, and it's very tough. But I agree that we do need to find a way to organize and rally the troops and get everybody fired up for sure.
Well, do the best you can. If you need help, come to us. We'll see what we can do. We can send you some bodies. We were literally traveling home from court one day. I think, was Ellen there? Laura was there. I don't remember. We were leaving court and we were headed downtown, and there was a bunch of guys on the subway, and they told us that they were going to a strike in Midtown, and the company was in Midtown, but the workers came up from like Tennessee. And because their corporate headquarters was in Manhattan. And we were like, how many of you are going to be there? We're like, I don't know. They're like a couple of us. We were like, oh, we can't have that. So we got off the subway with them and we went to their strike and we protested in the street with them. We had more people there than they did. And I'll tell you, the Central Labor Council showed up. There were like 6 guys and an inflatable rat. And we brought all these retirees to their strike protest. So it was the craziest. It was a crazy day, but we did. We stood there with them. And, you know, once you're union, you're always union, even if you're retired. But
absolutely.
Yeah. We could even march up to Harry's house up in wherever the hell he lives now. But I would try talking to Dennis. He's got to understand what's going on and what's not working. And I can appreciate the fact that he didn't make those decisions or may not have been privy to them. It doesn't minimize what his responsibility is to the membership in trying to fix it and set that straight. And he has that power that he can do that. And he has to also learn what the MLC is and what it isn't, and what his power is there and what it isn't. And that he should be fighting for the little unions to have a larger voice and not only the 2 largest unions to control everything.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Marianne.
You're welcome. Is there I don't see Sal anymore, so I'm guessing maybe his phone died or he had to go back into the house. But is there anything else you wanted to ask before we go?
I think that was about it. I'm sure we'll talk more aside from this, and we just thank you for your wealth of knowledge and
You're welcome.
always helping to rally the troops. You're wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You had about 60-ish people on this at any one time, and it was just, from what I can tell, from YouTube. So this will be on YouTube. The link that's in your page should bring you right to there. If not, let me know. I'll make sure I put it back in. And then I'm going to put your contract in there to show you the 14 and 18 agreements were rolled into your collective bargaining agreement to show you that you're subject to both of those. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and make sure you remember, change starts with you. Stay warm and be safe this week and throughout this storm. And you call me if you need me. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
All right. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Don't speak what you don't understand. The truth is not in your command. Don't shout about what you think is fake. The decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are.